Welcome to the Broken Graciously podcast, where we challenge the culture of brokenness by exchanging beauty for ashes holistically with candid conversations, transparency, and practical tips. I am your host, Tanisha B. Lester, lovingly known as Coach T. I'm a Master Certified Life and Business Coach, Certified Christian Coach, Certified Pastoral Counselor, Certified in Women's Entrepreneurship, best-selling author, and speaker. This season is season 3. Welcome. We are tackling this season the issue of breast cancer and how survivors have navigated through their diagnosis, treatment, and life after diagnosis. So sit back, enjoy, be sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the podcast so that you're getting the notifications when new episodes drop weekly. Again, this is the Broken Graciously podcast. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Broken Graciously. This is Coach T. Look, we are challenging the culture of brokenness holistically with candid conversations, transparency, and practical tips. So again, as you know, for this episode, this is episode 5. We have been talking to various women who have endured and survived breast cancer. Today is no different. Today we have another lady coming in to share her story and her journey and all that she endured and has survived. So again, I want to just give you the disclaimer. I am not a medical professional. She has some medical background that she'll tell you about that gives her a different perspective from some of the other ladies that we have talked to as well, but we'll get all into that in a moment. So let me introduce you to today's guest. Today's guest is Darlene Higgs Hollis. She is a certified master life and business coach. She's the founder of Rebranding My Life movement for women and an ordained minister. She is passionate about being a midwife for women birthing their dreams. She is an Amazon best-selling author of 8 books: Divorced Suddenly Single Moms Devotional, Divorced Suddenly Single Moms Devotional 2, Rebranding, Notes to Self Journal, Rebranding My Life Anthology, Crisis in Paradise, Women's Experience During Hurricane Dorian, which was an anthology, Unmuted, Strategies to Move Forward from Tragedy and Triumph. That was another anthology. And the Women Entrepreneurial Prayers, Strategic Prayers to Rebrand Your Life and Business. Darlene is especially passionate about women breaking their silence and putting it into print in order to leave their stamp on this earth. She strives to ensure that every author preserves her voice as she writes and publishes her book. As a master certified life and business coach, she is also a trainer. She is, again, the founder of the leading and coming up and into the space of coaching, the Rebranding My Life International Coaching Academy, where she trains women how to follow their passion by becoming life and business coaches. She has been featured in several media outlets, including Courageous Women Magazine, BahamasLocal.com, Native Stew, and the Bahamas Weekly. So join me in welcoming Coach Darlene to this space.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, this is again not any different than any other women that we've talked to. We just want to come in and have a conversation to shed some light on it because it's disproportionate in our community. We want to bring awareness to the issue and probably think of some ways that we could try to, number one, spread the word, but also just see how we can see things differently and begin to change our thought processes about breast cancer, give some information about it, and then look at ways that things could possibly change. So first off, tell us, because you didn't tell us in your bio, and I know it's a whole lot more stuff than that's in this bio. So tell everybody all the rest of these titles that you got going on, and tell us your particular type of breast cancer.
Ooh, what didn't I say in there? I am also a cosmetic chemist, and I started a skincare beauty company called Maribel by name, named after three of my sisters that passed away in 2020. And so that's like my playground because I don't get to do that. I'm also a biologist. I have degrees in biology and chemistry, and then I have well, that's my bachelor's, and I have a master of public health, which so everything that I do with coaching, I really lean on my expertise, my experiences, career experiences also. And I also used to be a research and development chemist. And let's see, what else did I do? I used to be a teacher. Yeah, I used to be a teacher with the kids. High
Regulatory
school.
compliance.
Yes, actually I did. I was a regulatory specialist in oncology at one of the leading cancer institutes in the country. And I did that for about 5, 6 years. So myself going through breast cancer, I wasn't on the breast cancer team, but directly, but I knew a little bit about it because the phase 1 studies, I was like a backup person on it. I did more of lung and head and neck studies. So for me, being sitting in that seat, it was very different, but it also gave me I knew to ask more in-depth questions, and all of my healthcare team, they knew that was my background. So a lot of times they would tell me more. And as we talk, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about what the funny part with who ended up being one of the persons, a coworker, being one of the healthcare professionals that I had to be myself to. So, but yeah, so I had HER2 plus breast cancer, which
So go ahead.
which means that is estrogen is not going to help me.
So according to the American Breast Cancer Society website, you can access it at cancer.org. HER2 is a protein that helps breast cancer cells grow quickly. The breast cancer cells with higher than normal levels of H2 are called H2 positive, which is what she just said that she had. These cancers tend to grow and spread faster than breast cancers that are H2 negative, HER2 negative, sorry, but are much more likely to respond to treatment with drugs that target the HER2 protein in and of itself. It's all invasive cancers, as they said, should be tested for HER2 either on a biopsy sample or when the tumor is removed via surgery. So let's talk about, and this is a question that I've asked all of the women. When you receive, first of all, how did you find it?
Mm.
Where did you find it? And then when you received the diagnosis, like how did that make you feel? Like what were your emotions? What were your thought processes and your mindset?
Um, so I honestly do, I didn't do regular checks. Sometimes years would go by, even though I had found a lump in my right breast, which my then husband, my ex-husband, he found that one. And he was fussing at me then, like, so this time and single mom and just I didn't even take time to do that. And not having a partner, no one's touching it but me. And I just felt led by the Holy Spirit to check one day. And as I checked, I felt led to go all the way under my arm, like from, because normally we don't check there. And I felt a lump, and I knew because sometimes they'll say, oh, that's just like from your deodorant or, um, blockage of your lymph nodes or whatever. And I just felt led to not do that. And so I told my gynecologist, who they didn't even do an ultrasound. I don't think they did an ultrasound. She took it seriously right away. And I think that's what really helped me. She did not like just brush it off and say, oh, we'll watch it. She said, you need to go. I'm scheduling a diagnostic mammogram for you right now. And when she did that, the radiologist was I found out because I had to go back. I found out that he's very vigilant. They told me, especially about breast cancer, and he told me right then that you need to get a biopsy. He didn't leave it up to me. He got on the phone with the same day he got on the phone with my gynecologist to tell her she needs to go and get a biopsy. I'm not just sending the order in or sending my results in to you. I need you to talk to her. And my doctor in turn called me, so I knew it was like serious. I was so that's how I found it, and it's amazing that a lot of people, everybody was kept asking me, how did you find it? I didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. Now I know that normally breast cancer, if it's still starting under the arm anywhere, at that part of the breast, it's not found quickly. How did I feel? I don't know. I kind of knew the Lord had already prepared me, even though people had prayed and everything and said, can denounce cancer and all of that. I kind of knew that that was going to be the diagnosis. And so the day that she told me, well, by then I was a breast cancer surgeon. When she told me, I guess I was numb. I didn't cry or anything. All I felt was like, okay, fight on. Let's do this. That's what I really felt. My sister-in-law was with me. I think it hit her harder than it hit me. So I just felt right away, okay, it's time to fight.
Um, I think you hit on something that has been a common theme. You're probably like the third woman that I've talked to that said that she found it under her arm. And most like I too didn't know um that it could be under that far. Like it just didn't matter. It just never occurred to me because when we think about again that lump under an arm, we associate it with what we've always been told. Oh, it's probably part of your deodorant or whatever. So you don't think to check all the way under there, number one. And two, they don't really talk about it like that. When they talk about it, they just mainly focus on the breast itself and don't tell you to check under your arms or, around the various areas of where the lymph nodes can actually be. So I think that's an important fact again to stress, to be sure you're checking not just solely your breast, but check under your arms and around your neck and that whole upper body region, because you just never know.
But a
The
lot of
first
times with lymph nodes, you can't, like with the lymph nodes, you can't tell unless it's like oozing or, different things. But when it's a lump, again, even on the mammogram machine, unless that person, that tech is vigilant and make you go all the way up on it. And if you're a woman with not a whole lot of boobs, your tactile being really there, you just like got an A, B, or even a C. It's not much to put up there. And so they miss right, like mine was like right, like almost like if you would have cut the breast, right where it connects under the arm. That's where it was. And they said a lot of women do not check those areas. And then even on the mammogram machine, they could try to put you up there, but I mean, unless it's diagnostic, they're probably not going to try too hard or think anything of it. So whenever I got once I told them, it was really tough doing the exams because I'll have a lot and I had to put it all the way up on there. And I'm telling you, the excruciating all the way to surgery and having to do that. So, and that's what they told me. The last person asking was our PA, the surgeon's PA, and she said, we're so glad that you found it. And I said, why does everybody keep saying that? And she said, because most times that part right there is missed. We check around. We don't check starting under the arm and come in. So yeah. So that's one of my things to tell women. Make sure you check starting up on the arm too. That's still the breast. We
Yeah,
attach it to the underarm.
yeah. The for one of the first ladies that I talked to, hers were actually in her neck as well. So like it's
Lymph
crazy. Just check everything. Check everything. There's no better way to put it other than that. So one of the things, like, nobody wants to get a mammogram because they hurt. They hurt like the dickens, and I'll be the first one to tell you I don't like it. they squeeze every bit of ounce, and I'm short, so trying to get up on there in the first place and get myself positioned makes it even more difficult. So it's, I mean, they can lower and adjust the height of it, but it still seems to be difficult to get everything under the machine, which I don't know, maybe at some point they'll come up with a different device that enhances, that imagery. Um, but who knows? What do you think about the disproportion in our community? Because we've talked about that a lot. What do you think about it being so, or what do you think are the causes of why the diagnoses or lack thereof and treatments and the mortality rate is so high in our community?
That's a great question. I told you I was biology and chemistry major. So while I was in college, I did a short internship stint where we I was one of the interviewers for Black women specifically, who were breast cancer survivors, and we were looking at the time that they were diagnosed. Most of these women were diagnosed past stage 2. In fact, most of the ladies I interviewed, I think they were all in like three and four. And as a young woman, young Black woman, interviewing these women, and some of them were like, one lady, she was in her 80s. She wanted to tell her story. All of them was because they waited late to even go to the doctor. And some of them, it was not that they did not have access. It was not
Okay.
that they did not have insurance. It was just what was in the community, and even going through now, I think there is some sense of shame, especially with breast cancer. And I don't know if you were gonna ask me about that later on, but
Get to
uh,
that because that's a question I've asked everybody.
yeah, so that was it. It wasn't only that we did not have access, it was just in our community. We waited a long time to go and get tested. And again, even the 80 something year old lady, I'm looking at this was degreed, a very educated professional. And I think a part of it was because it's not um, really pushed in our community. And then with me being a public health professional too, I learned a lot. So one thing is that I know, even from not after talking to those ladies, and while I worked, obtained my master's in public health, we talked about that. And one part was, you would not believe, and me not being from here, we didn't have that type of fear of medical professionals or healthcare. And I feel that what happened with the Tuskegee, that really became pervasive in the Black community in this United States of America, because we don't have that issue home in the Bahamas.
I talked
And
about
that
that
was,
last episode.
yeah, that's one of the things that I learned, even as I talk as a student when I interviewed those ladies. I was an undergrad then,
Mm.
and I was interviewing them. And then when I did it, during my master's, and we talked about that, and I was able to actually tell them, like, I interviewed several women, and that was the thing, like, what is it here? And as we talked, we found that that one incident, that one thing has really made the Black community in America not trust medical professionals the way we should. And we wait too late a lot of times. And sometimes I could tell you, me personally, we are so busy that a lot of us women, honestly, we're not taking care of our bodies the way we should.
Yeah, because we're too busy taking care of everybody else, so we always get put no, I won't let me change that. We don't get put on the back burner. We put ourselves on the back burner. That's what we do anyway. So that's always going to be a contributing factor until we can look at ourselves as being worthy of being taken care of first.
Right.
And when we don't take care of ourselves first, then yeah, a whole just get slidden by. But here's what I'll say to what your point of not trusting medical professionals. Tuskegee, yeah, absolutely. That's part of it, which has contributed to our lack of participating in trials for various diagnoses. It doesn't matter if it's breast cancer, if it's lupus, it doesn't matter. And I talked about this last episode with the last interviewee, with the last guest. We had the same conversation. But then also the other part of that is you don't trust them because they don't listen to you. And that's been my issue with medical professionals. I've changed more this year than ever because I'm telling you something and you're not listening to what I'm saying, or you're stereotyping me and just going off of what your stereotypical thinking is. So that's always going to be an issue because the patient knows their bodies, but
Right.
it needs to be a bedside manner that is conducive to listening and really understanding your patient and taking that time to address their issues without just dismissing them right off the bat. And I think, as I've talked to other people where there were issues going on, they brought the issue to the medical professional. The medical professional discounted what was being said. Consequently, when they finally got to someone that was listening, they were farther along in the process than they should have been. Because had that first person listened, it would have been caught because you could have done the appropriate testing to find the issue.
And that's why it's so important to make sure that you have the right medical professional. I think some of us, like, I will compare it to church. Like when we find a church, we just try to stay there. If you're a doctor and you're not doing right, I will leave you. I will no longer be a patient. I had one doctor with my kids who sent us a letter, and he said, don't, he basically said, don't come back. A part of it was racially motivated, but he got mad because I was asking questions. I did not allow them to do certain things. And I think that because of my skin color, they were shocked that I would ask such educated questions, I guess. And I wanted answers, and I was, I was nice about it. The nurse got upset, but I will tell you too, now that you said that, it makes me think about the first doctor, the gynecologist. Earlier that year, I had issues, some other issues, and I needed a procedure. I said I need a new gynae. It was a male that my first appointment was with, and I did not. I'm telling him what's going on, and he said, "Oh well." He basically told me, "Well, it may be because you need to get skinnier. You need to lose." And I said, "No, that is not why I'm having pains. That is not why." He scheduled an ultrasound, and actually, when I went in doing the ultrasound, the tech and I were talking, and I was nervous because one of my friends had just passed away from ovarian cancer. And when she said your ovaries look good, I just burst out crying. And that opened the door for her to really start talking to me. She said, who is your doctor? And then I told her at the time. And she said, get one of the women. She said, I'm not supposed to tell you that, but get one of the women. And I said, who? Which one? The text be knowing. That's how I got the lump taken out, removed from my right breast. That was just fibroid adenoma. It was the tech that told me, let me know, like, some of these patients end up coming back and it turns into cancer. It ends up being not benign, ends up being malignant. So anyway, but that one, and so I took her advice and started going to the new doctor who, anything I told her, she was patient. She waited on me. She said, and that's what she says, you know your body, you're a woman, you know what choice you want to make. Even after they said, like now they said to get off these shots or whatever medication is one thing you can do. She said, if you're not ready to do that, don't do that. So it is very important. And I always have doctors, like for me, I'll tell you all a trick. If they see you with your pen and paper and notebook, that you are known to ask questions, write down answers. So they got used to it. Every last healthcare professional, even now that I have, they're used to me asking questions. If I cannot ask you questions, no. I've told them before that one time a nurse called me And I said, oh, I'm not coming back anymore. She said, why? I said, he ignored me, and now I'm pregnant. He told me I wasn't. We were trying for my son, and I said, and I was pregnant. And he put me back on, and so he called me and told me, said, Miss Hollis, I am so sorry. From that day, anytime he said he'll say, any more questions, they will get used to you asking questions. Take your notes, put your notes in your phone. My last pay, my last doctor visit was a new doctor, a PCP, and I had it written down in my phone. Anything going on with me, I just wrote it down. So have the notes. If they see you doing that, they already know this is a patient that I need to make sure I have time to talk to them. I cannot rush them. So you got to find that kind of health professional.
Yeah. And well, down here, as I've said, they don't like to be asked questions
I
because
know.
they're used to people just taking whatever they're saying as gospel. In this particular town, they don't like it,
I
which
know.
is why I've had to fire doctors because they don't like me asking questions. My
Yeah.
mom has come up with the same problem. She asking questions. One lady last week told her, "You came here for my expertise." Yeah.
My
But the advice she was giving her could have killed her.
Wow, my medical oncologist, a lot of people, even the doctors are scared of. But she's used to me asking questions. And one of my friends used to work with her, and she said she does not. She's not that friendly. But her patients, like she doesn't open up. She's like she would come in even when if I'm seeing her nurse practitioner, if she see me, I'll hear her. I'll be talking to him because they already know I'm gonna ask questions. So you need to find doctors like that. And her thing tells you, what she call it, something about Google, because we'll come in there. So she still allows you room to respond, to ask the questions, and she respond. But again, where you are, I'm familiar with that area, and that's what I had to do the same thing. So yeah,
So just know that you have the ability to hire and fire medical professionals. If your needs are being ignored, if you're not getting questions answered, if they're ignoring your questions, whatever the case is, you have the right to find another doctor. Do
right,
so. I implore you to do so because
right,
that you sticking with that same person could very well be detrimental to your health,
right,
and we want you to survive.
right.
So, here's a question that I didn't ask some of the other ladies. When you all of the times that you've had your mammograms, were you ever told that your breasts were dense?
No,
Okay.
I have
Um,
fibroid adenoma in one of them, but it didn't say, percent. No.
okay. So for me, when I get mine back, it always talks about the density of it. So I just wanted to tap into that a little bit and tell you guys what the density of it is and kind of what it may mean. So if you've gotten your results back from your mammogram and it says about your breast being dense, so that you kind of have an idea of what it means if you didn't ask. So the breast density reflects the amount of fibrous and glandular tissue that comprises your breast, and that amount of fatty tissue. So on the mammogram, what it does is it assigns you the density. So the breasts are either entirely fatty, a few areas of dense tissue are scattered throughout the breasts are evenly dense throughout, or they're extremely dense. Women in the first two categories are said to have low density, non density, or fatty breasts. Women in the second two categories have high density or dense breasts. About half women who are 40 years or older have dense breasts. Now, what is it, the importance of it as far as your breast cancer risk? So, women with dense breasts, have a higher chance of getting breast cancer. The more dense your breasts are, the higher your risk. And scientists don't know for sure why this is the case. But breast cancer patients who have dense breasts are not more likely to die from breast cancer than patients with non-dense breasts. So that's just to give you a little clue about that. And here are the people that actually have dense breasts: younger women, pregnant or breastfeeding, taking hormone replacement therapy, or have a lower body weight. So that's just to give you a little information on that. You can find that on the CDC website, which is cdc.gov. So we talked about in your bio how you have all these businesses and are into all of these things. Tell me how being diagnosed affected, reduced, impacted, or whatever your business is and your ministry.
Mm, it shut it down. So I had to step back, and I had a great support system um who encouraged me to step back and take care of me, because normally I would just keep working. I'm a workaholic. And so I took time off, and I didn't realize it was a year until it was a year, until I was trying to get back to it. And I'm glad, because with with radiology and surgery and all of that, it was a challenge, and there are a lot of internal things that's going on, even mentally, even with the brain, with memory and all of that, that people don't see unless they're around, or know unless they're around you. So I dealt with brain fog. I dealt with short-term memory loss. That is just, I don't have brain fog anymore, but the short-term memory loss sometimes still, like, things that I should know, like the name of my own program, whatever. Sometimes I could feel like a thought, like, and I have to really try hard to remember words, and I'm like, so it does affect you. Um, and then there are so many ways, especially for women who end up having to do chemo, which, I praise God I didn't. But radiation in itself was a lot. So those women, I remember looking at those women, women walking in and knowing that they were coming from work, and I'm like, man, I know that they were fighting to keep their jobs, because I've seen it, and I was just um, feeling blessed. And I knew I was blessed that, because I had my own business, I wasn't on anybody's schedule. And so think of the women who have to deal with that, like, especially the single moms. You don't really have a support system, because eventually people are not gonna be there, honestly. If you don't have a partner, especially the ones without a partner, or committed person anyway, being there for you, and that's the challenge, and that's why some of us don't even go get tested, because, or go to the doctor, because we're so busy doing things, or we don't want to lose time away from work. So yeah, it was a challenge. It was a challenge, and even a challenge rebuilding. Getting started again. That jump start it's like not easy, because you weren't out there in the public anymore. I don't care what anybody say. If they're not seeing you after a while, no, you are going to lose momentum.
So you found yourself having to not only just get back out there, but to restart everything over. Was it challenging? Um, Probably mentally and mentally and physically. How challenging was it for you to have to face starting all over again?
Man, that was tough. It was really, really, really tough, because I was at a certain point in my business where things were moving smoothly. And so starting over again, it was like pushing a boulder out of the way. And so when you're so far in business, you have certain experiences, you have certain expectations, even of yourself. And so for me, it was wanting to work those long hours. I'll fall asleep at my desk. It was hard. It was frustrating. I'm not a coffee drinker. I would drink maybe like they call it frou drinks, y'all. People tease. It's not real coffee. I'll drink like maybe cappuccino. But now then, like, once I got back into it, I found myself espresso. My daughter got me started on that. But I had to have it in order to give myself energy. No longer can I just eat some chips and drink some Sprite to keep me awake. literally sometimes my body just totally shut down where I could not work. I had to literally go get out my office totally and go sit down somewhere. Not even sit down, just totally out of it. And then when you're on, because you're beyond that, it doesn't mean that no matter how good you look, it doesn't mean that you're not on some medication. And so these medications beyond that, there are some things going on there. There's some effects of those, some adverse effects of those medications. Like me, with having HER2, most HER2 um survivors, we are on anti-estrogen medication, and estrogen is made in the body in two different ways. So they have to give you medication to stop both those pathways, right? To try and stop the reoccurrence of that breast cancer. And so those in itself, weight gain, all of that kind of stuff. I was crashed in the menopause, so that was another thing. They crashed me in the menopause. I was not even though at my age they thought I was like perimenopausal. I wasn't even perimenopausal even with my big age. And so yeah, it was tough. Like you know what to do. And then another thing was too, within that year, you don't have the same you probably don't have the same team anymore. Especially if you are already a small business, a small team, you probably don't have those people anymore. Depending on how your business is set up. If it's a service type business and you were known to show up live, then yeah. So it was rebuilding on all fronts.
How important would you say is the self-care aspect of it during and after diagnosis?
Oh, it's very important. Like really taking that time, that space for yourself. Um, for me now, that's non-negotiable. I make sure that I take space for myself. And sometimes I find myself having to protect. One of my friends said this to me. She said, "Okay, Miss Scientist, cortisol, the cortisol levels need to stay low," which is true. And so I had to find a way to manage that, to manage where I manage my mental space as well as my emotional space as well as physically. I'm getting better with that. Um, so I mean, you're facing, and people think because we're at stage one or two, I don't care. That can grow, especially with an aggressive type breast cancer. I don't care. That's still in that woman's head that I could be facing death if I don't do what I need to do. And so you'll find most survivors really um, appreciate and really set boundaries where self care is concerned. And self care, a lot of times you say self care, they think it's getting your nails done. And no, not even just that. You got to protect your mental space too, and emotional space. Like you have to do that. And so that's what's really important to me now. And um, even the way that I set my day, the way that I set my day. I'm getting better about getting my rest. That's been my thing because even with the medication, sometimes it messes with you even sleeping. You get insomnia. If you're a night owl like me, you already couldn't work hardly during the day anyway. Like that was not your creative space. So it's just trying to manage all of that. But again, yeah. So self care, think of every way, spiritually too. Can't leave out spiritually. So it's just taking care of yourself.
Right. So a couple more areas I want to tap into. So one area you talked about support, and I've asked each woman how important was having a support system, a support group, and your faith, if you're a person of faith, how all of that, which I know that part you are, how did all of that help you and assist you, and how important was it for you during and after?
Man, it was important. It still is because it allowed me then to focus on getting better, to focus on getting to each step in the journey. And then I didn't feel like I was by myself. I had a really great group of um, girlfriends. My family here was very supportive. My family in behind, like even if it was just a phone call, hey, how you doing? You know, um, people getting on me because I don't eat like I should. um, so that is still important. That is still important because it allows you to to stay focused on you don't like now I don't want to go back there. I don't want to hear that word again in association with I mean with anybody. But I don't want to go through that again because it's more than what people see. And people always say, you don't look like you had cancer. Like, are you for like you
What does it
never
look like?
look like. So I told him, I said, no, it's still, there's a whole lot and I remember even on I had a guy who inboxed me, who DM'd me on Instagram and asked me, why am I putting on so much weight? And I honestly wanted to curse him out if he knew that I had just come through cancer. Why would you ask me that question? So that's one of the things I want to tell people too. Be careful what you're asking. Like, be try to be sensitive. You know what I'm saying? That to me that was insensitive, knowing that this person never say, well. But at the time when they asked the question, I was proud of myself, and I'm like, you know what? I'm taking care of everything else. I'm gonna get to the physical things going on, rushing the menopause, and they do that no matter what age you are, no matter what age you are, and it's that type of cancer. And I mean, I wasn't ready for it, but they're like, we need to do this before you even have the surgery, so you can get started. And so, yeah, it's really important to have people around you so you can focus on staying there.
Okay. What like are you still in some sort of treatments, or how long does that have to last? I know some of the other women talked about having to take shots for the next 5 years and technically not being cancer free, even though there's no cells showing up until after that 5 year mark.
Well, my doctors have actually told me that I am cancer free in spite of being on the shot and then taking a daily pill. Because what that is doing is really it's working to shut down estrogen in the body. So most of the women, that's probably what they were talking about. It's a shut down estrogen production in the body in two different ways. Because again, it's made in the body, the two different pathways. So that's why you got to do oral, and then the shot is like right there near the uterus. And um, so for with that is concerned, it's the same thing. They either say 5 or 10 years. My doctor told me 10. One part is 10 years, she said, and one part is 5. I'm like, unless you choose to have your ovaries removed.
And that
If
brings
you're
on a whole bunch of other issues.
right, if you have not had a hysterectomy, you've not done all of that. And that's what my gynecologist actually talked to me about. She's like, if you're not ready, you don't have to do that. And so my new gynecologist, she said, we're just gonna watch. Because like I'm done having babies. I'm done having babies. So that's not an issue for me. But I don't believe in having unnecessary surgery because there are other after effects that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
No matter how you look. So so I'm looking at that now if I want to make that decision. Until then, like a friend of mine, he was like, I was like, man, I can't. I want to. He was like, look, you needed to. You living right. You living right. He said, take the darn medication. Take it. You are. It's keeping you, helping you to stay alive. So keep it. And one of the things that I didn't mention, this is very, very, very important, especially with her too. Um, they have what they call it. It's called an oncotype test. And what this test does, it's a genotype test where, and again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just telling you what happened to me. Me, and my little bit of knowledge about me working, in the life science field. But what it does, and I forgot how old it is. It's not an. It's a fairly new test. I'm not sure if it's even 20. It's not even. I don't know if it's even 15 years old yet. But what they found was breast cancer was reoccurring in some women and some women wasn't. So they said, let's do some data. And in that data, they were also looking at the genotype, right? And so they were able to build, see, okay, there is so much percentage of the rate of this coming back, right? And so one of the things my medical oncologist told me is make sure you remind, and she was talking with a surgeon, you remind her to do that oncotype test, because as soon as they take those cells out, that lesion out, they had to test it, or they wouldn't have been able to know. And so they do the test during the surgery. The surgery is just like, more than the biopsy. So they do the test then, and then your results. I had already done the genetic testing for cancer, which mine was negative, but I have told my girls they need to get it because they have it. It's on their dad's side, the two females, immediate, and then me. But mine was, even though mine was negative, they still wanted to do the oncotype test. And so I had that done, and mine was like less than 1%. I heard my doctor rejoicing even before she came in the room with me. So that will tell you your probabilities of having it. And if your probability is high, then your physician will then tell you what things you can do. And that's why you see some women will go ahead and have a full, they just say, we just gonna take it all away because there's a high chance of it returning. So
Basically, it just creates another genetic or genome type profile to see what your chances are of reoccurrence. So
right.
that's an important test to note if you have to have surgery or if you've already gone through the process, if you have to do it again somehow to get that testing done to see what your reoccurring chances are. So, we talked about all of this. Let me see. Trying to think of some of the other questions that I asked some of the ladies. I think we covered all of the questions. We talked about the trials and all of that stuff. So, well, give us two things. Give us your final thoughts and then give us what you have going on now since you had to rebuild business and how you're moving forward in that, and any advice that you can give any other women out there that may be dealing with, getting ready to go through, or possibly deal with breast cancer in the future that are business owners.
Well, those were a lot of questions. I might not remember all. You might have to come back. Somebody said memory. Okay. So, one of the things I would say, so for radiation, I was approached to do a study, to be on a study. Because I've done it, I was not afraid to do it. I just looked at looked at all the information, and I chose to be on a study. So radiation, when they do it for the breast, it's normally full breast, but this was the second part of a study. Um, and so I was like, sure, I'll do the half breast. Um, I'll do the half breast study. So if they present you with something good, just ask all the information. Don't say no just because it's a study. Um, and you actually, when you're on the study, a lot of times you end up being seen more because you are on the study. There's a protocol and how many times you need to go in, the follow-ups you need to do. So you normally you get more visits than if you were not on the study, and especially if it's a part two. They already ruled out a whole lot when they did the part one. So that's what I would tell the women. And another thing was the oncotype test too. And a big thing that we didn't talk about is, man, the secrecy among
Yeah,
Black
yeah,
women,
yeah. We
especially.
didn't we didn't hit that. Yeah.
Um, I will tell you, even before I'm glad I was in worked in healthcare before, worked in research before to know that it's very important. When they're asking you on those questions, if any of that is hereditary, try to be as honest as you can. I'll use for myself, for example, the question was, you know, do you have any family members who've had breast cancer? And so I said yes. But sometimes we don't even know because family members don't tell us. They're ashamed of it. I like it's a big thing. And and so what they do is they'll look at what if what they try to use on you doesn't work? They can then see, even if your family member records or talk to their physician or whatever, if they give them permission to see what worked for her. Because it may be a family thing. Remember, you have the same DNA, especially with a sister, brother, you right there, right? So it may what didn't work for you, what worked for them may work for you. And so they want to know like kind of treatment, those kind of things. And I remember my doctor being very, very upset because I'd asked somebody in the family for the information. They said yes, and they did not give it to me. And she said, I don't know what it is that frustrates me with us Black women. Why do we do that? And I told her it's not just in the United States. I think that's a worldwide thing. And especially when it comes to female parts, it's like we're embarrassed. Um, so I would say, women, even if you haven't had it, or if you had it, tell your family. Tell your family because that family member who is going through it now may not even, she probably don't even know that you had radiation, you had chemo, whatever you were diagnosed because you hid it. And that would also let her know that she has some support because she's seen you survive it. So don't keep it a secret. Don't keep it a secret.
We talked about in the other episodes, like it confounds me. It really does. But I liken it to the old adage of what goes on in this house stays in this house. Right?
Right.
That's how I see it. It didn't serve us then, it doesn't serve us now, and it won't serve us in the future at all. And that can be from the smallest thing to the greatest thing of medical diagnoses. You could potentially be saving a future family member, current family member's life if you simply open your mouth. But that's just not something we choose to do, unfortunately. But that could even if your particular type of cancer isn't a genetic form where it can be passed down through the generations genetically, well, you still could be saving them because they could be more vigilant knowing that, hey, my sister had this, so I probably need to be more vigilant and get checked more often. Conversely, if it is a genetic form, then it's even more important to let the women in your family know, hey, I have this. I don't know if you can get it or not, but you might but
Yeah.
instead we want to keep all of that stuff closed off. It just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't understand it. I've never understood it, and I probably never will. I get that, like the last episode, the lady said she didn't want to tell her family members because she didn't want them to like basically pity her, right? Which I can understand. And my statement to that was, I understand your statement. However, there's a way that you can communicate that. You can literally say, "Hey, this is what I have. This is what I'm going through. This is what I need from you." Right? If you communicate your needs, then you can eliminate some of the stuff that you don't want to deal with as far as shame or guilt or, pity or any of that. If you merely say, hey, all I need for you to do is know that I have it and just be supportive. I don't need you asking me a bunch of questions because I got enough going on right now that I don't want to have to answer all these questions or deal with how you feel about what I'm going through. right? Because sometimes as outside people, you can project your feelings onto that individual that's going through that diagnosis, and that just adds extra stress to them that they don't need.
Right.
So
But
if
some of
they're
that comes from pride, though.
true, but if that's
I've had to let that go.
communicated, you can kind of eliminate some of that stuff, which was my point to her, so she understood it from that perspective, and because she said she hadn't thought about doing it that way. So that was just a method to, anybody that's listening, that you can kind of try to mitigate some of that if that's your reasoning for not wanting to share. So
We
one
have a
one day we gonna
sister
get better.
who passed away. My sister passed away from cancer. She came to my wedding, was in my wedding, my maid of honor, and she passed away almost exactly 30 days later. We had no idea she had cancer. We were, we were her sisters. We were upset. It caught our kids off guard. It caught all of us off guard. And we always said, we're not going to keep that kind of thing in secret again, because we will know to help each other make preparation if the doctors say this is terminal. However way you want to fight it. It didn't it because it's not just you. It's you, but especially if you have children or you have family and you know love you, at least give them that where they it gives them time, and they may be able to get some help you make preparation that you didn't even think of. There may be stuff going on that they were waiting to give to you, that they will say, I'm going to give you this now, whatever the reason is. Some people will say, I don't want my family to spend all this money on me. There may be something that somebody's holding for you till later on, and they say, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and just use. We never know. We never know who we're helping.
Yeah, it's so much. I don't know. That's a big space of ambiguity right there. But hopefully we make a small drop in the pond of, awareness to kind of urge people to be more open about it. So, last question: what do you have going on that you want to share with the people, and how would you encourage other entrepreneurs, whatever end of that journey they're on, um in this particular space?
Ah, so for so let me say first what I would encourage others to do. Do not give up on your business. Don't give up. Even if you have to start from scratch, you still have your skill set. Just start there. Just start there. If you have to rebrand in whatever way you need to do, like for me, I just pivoted. Some things I dropped. Whatever you need to switch out or let go. Because after this, our mind changes. Life before cancer, life after cancer. We say whatever you need to do. Do not let other people pressure you into keeping what you need to let go. Whatever you need to do to make it work for you, continue to do that. All right, just don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your business. What do I have going on? So, I got a lot, got a lot going on, but I will talk about this. So we just opened. I wrote a book. That's the book behind Coach T. You see there, the women
Wait,
entrepreneur prayer
wait,
book.
I can't. There it is, right there. There it
Yeah,
is.
prayer book. Um, we there were 24 of us. There were like 15 of us who continued on. We just finished a book tour, and our book tour is not the normal book tour. We are actually doing and putting on business coaching masterclasses. And so what we wanted to do is give back to other women in business, whether no matter where you are in business. So we've created and we just launched a pitch contest only for women to be girls, as long as you female, right? Um, so it's a pitch contest that the first round ends next week, Wednesday, I think, it's the day before my birthday, October 4th. Ends on October 4th. I'm gonna let ask Coach T if she could please put the link in, give y'all a link. And so that pitch contest, the winner gets 1 year, 1 year, one whole year of coaching, business coaching, and mentoring the whole year. And it's going to be several coaches. The team will be based on whatever business type you have and your needs. So it'll be tailored to the winner. We say it's worth 75K, but some of us are master coaches, are experienced coaches. It's worth more than 75K because you will pay that with one of us. So you're gonna have at least,
Probably.
it's gonna be at least 5 of us helping you at some point, maybe more during the year, because all of us do different parts of business. So we're gonna look at what you need. It's free. You do not have to pay anything. Just apply. All right. You
Just
and
just go ahead and speak the link so it'll populate.
Okay. It is. I gotta pull the flyer. Trying to remember all the stuff. Okay, hold up. Let me find it, y'all. Okay.
So
Uh,
while she's looking for the link, the pitch contest will actually be live. You will have to pitch your thing live as a finalist the
right,
weekend of the conference, which is November the 3rd, 4th weekend. You will do it live in front of an audience. So
right,
be aware of that. You're doing it recorded as a submission, but as you matriculate through the stages, your final pitch will be in front of a live audience, at which time audience vote and the judges vote is what is going to seal your fate in the pitch contest.
right. So we're telling everybody, especially once you get to, if you once you, because the second round is top 25. Third round is top 10. Top 10 goes to top 5. So the top 5, you have to show up in person. And what will help you is to have your family and friends in the room. The conference, men can come too. Even though a lot of what we're doing is geared towards women, have your people in the room, and only those in the room, you can't send it out nowhere, only those in the room can vote for you. And that's a huge percentage of your vote. And so the winner will be announced that day right in the room with the audience and the judges. And when you pitch live, there'll be some people in the room who don't know you. Who will be voting for you. So and it's the conference is called The Gathering. The Gathering, a business and prayer conference for women. All right. So it's gonna be held in Atlanta on November 3rd and 4th. If the 3rd will only be for VIP. So, but the big conference is November 4th. And be prepared to be there like most of the day. It's really,
A link for
really.
that as well. So all of
Um,
this populates.
we are about to launch the link for the gathering. We haven't done that yet. We're working on that. But the link for the competition is bit.ly/WEP pitch competition. bit.ly/WEP pitch competition.
All right, so make sure you take note of that link to get registered and put your submission in for the Women Entrepreneur Prayers Pitch Competition.
I mean, only accepting 75 for the first round. So once we hit 75, we're cutting it off. So get there as soon as you can submit.
All
So you can be
right.
the number.
So I want to ask you one final question, and then we are going to get up on out of here and conclude this episode. So my final question is, when you hear the words broken graciously, what does it mean to you?
Broken graciously. My first thing is thinking of God, thinking of the Lord, and how um when I was broken, His grace was still upon me, and everything that came out of that brokenness, God allowed me to use it for Himself.
Absolutely. All right. So I want to thank Coach Darlene for coming in, sharing her story, sharing her heart, and giving you some practical tips. Be sure to take note of those tips that she's spoken throughout our time together. Again, this has been Broken Graciously, where we challenge the culture of brokenness holistically with candid conversations, transparency, and practical tips. I'll see you on the next episode, which will be our final episode, as this is an abbreviated season because we're solely celebrating Breast Cancer Month and survivors. So I'll talk to you later and see you on episode 6. Thank you for tuning in to the Breaking Graciously podcast. Stay tuned for weekly episodes. Follow me on IG at Tanisha B. Lester and the number 1. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Blessings.